The flood ended. The waters receded. The ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah stepped onto wet earth, and the Eternal made a covenant. A rainbow stretched across a clearing sky, and the promise was sealed. It is one of the most recognizable stories in all of human civilization, preserved across cultures, across continents, across thousands of years of oral and written tradition. The Babylonians had their version, the Sumerians had theirs, the ancient Indians, the Greeks, the Mesoamericans. Virtually every civilization on Earth carries some memory of a great flood that reset the world. And in almost every version of what came after, the story moves forward. Noah plants a vineyard, his sons repopulate the earth, civilization rebuilds. The darkness that caused the flood is assumed to be gone, washed away. But here is the question that the mainstream telling of this story has never adequately answered. If the flood was sent specifically to cleanse the earth of the Nephilim, those hybrid beings born of the union between the Watchers and the daughters of men, if that was the primary biological and spiritual crisis that triggered the most catastrophic divine response in the history of creation, then why do the Nephilim appear again after the flood? Not in fringe texts, not in obscure apocrypha that scholars debate in footnotes, in Numbers, in Deuteronomy, in Joshua, in 1 Samuel, in the very heart of the canonical scriptures that billions of people read every day, the giants are still there, named, located, described with specific measurements and specific tribal affiliations. How did beings that the flood was specifically sent to destroy survive? The answer has been sitting in a text discovered in Cave 1 at Qumran in 1947. A text so extraordinary, so specific in its detail, that the scholars who first translated it reportedly sat in silence for a long time before speaking. It is called the Book of Giants. And today, in this scroll, we are going to unseal it completely. I will show you not just how the Nephilim survived, I will show you where they went, what they became, what ancient names they carried in the post-flood world, and in the hidden detail that we will unseal in the final act of this documentary, I will show you one passage from the Dead Sea Scrolls that reveals something about their ultimate purpose that will reframe everything you thought you understood about the ancient war between the Creator and the forces that have opposed His design from the beginning. Stay with me. The scroll is open. Before we can understand how the Nephilim survived the flood, we need to understand with precision what they actually were, because the popular understanding of the word is almost entirely shaped by a single English translation choice that has flattened a far more complex reality. The word Nephilim appears in Genesis 6:4 in the Hebrew Masoretic text. It derives from the root naphal, to fall, to descend, to be cast down. The traditional translation renders them simply as giants, and while physical stature was certainly a characteristic attributed to them, the Hebrew conception of the Nephilim was not primarily about size. It was about origin. They were beings who existed at the intersection of two realms that were never meant to intersect: celestial and mortal, eternal and temporal, divine architecture and human biology. The Nephilim were not simply large humans. They were the walking consequence of a cosmic boundary violation. Beings whose very existence represented an unauthorized merging of categories that the Creator had deliberately kept separate. The Book of Enoch describes their nature with uncomfortable specificity. They consumed everything. When the food of men was exhausted, they turned to the men themselves. And when they turned upon one another, which the text says was inevitable, written into their nature like a fatal instruction, the earth ran with blood that cried upward to heaven. The flood came, and the Nephilim, the first generation, the giants born directly of the 200 Watchers, were destroyed in the waters. But Genesis 6:4 contains a phrase that almost every reader passes over without stopping. It reads, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward." And also afterward. 2 words in the English, 3 in the Hebrew, sitting quietly in the middle of the most famous judgment narrative in Scripture. The text does not explain them. It does not elaborate. It simply states as a matter of established fact that the Nephilim existed before the flood and after it. The Book of Giants from Qumran. Fragmentary, yes, but now partially reconstructed by scholars including Dr. Lauren Stuckenbrook of Ludwig Maximilian University Munich, whose work on the Aramaic fragments represents the most rigorous academic treatment of this text, gives us the mechanism. It was not the first generation Nephilim that survived. It was their descendants. Because the Nephilim themselves had children, and those children had children, and within several generations, the genetic and spiritual signature of the Watcher bloodline had dispersed, diluted but not eliminated, into specific human tribal lineages that carried the physical markers, the supernatural characteristics, and the spiritual orientation of their ancient progenitors. These lineages boarded the ark, not as pure Nephilim, not as the first generation giants, but as human beings, carrying within them a suppressed inheritance that would re-express itself physically, spiritually, militarily, in the generations after the flood receded. And now, the post-flood world. The Table of Nations in Genesis 10 records the descendants of Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, spreading across the ancient world. It is a genealogical record of breathtaking scope. And embedded within it, if you know precisely where to look, are names that connect directly to the giant clans that will appear centuries later in Canaan. Canaan, the son of Ham, is given a particular attention in the text. His descendants populate the land that will become the epicenter of the giant presence in the post-flood world. The Canaanite tribal confederacy that Israel will encounter when Moses sends the 12 spies is not a random collection of large people. It is a network of lineages carrying the re-expressed Nephilim inheritance. The ancient rabbinical tradition, preserved in the Book of Jasher, referenced directly in Joshua 10:13 and 2 Samuel 1:18, and therefore carrying the explicit endorsement of the canonical scriptures, identifies specific mechanisms by which the Nephilim bloodline transferred across the flood boundary. The Book of Jasher names Og, Og of Bashan. Og of Bashan is one of the most extraordinary figures in all of ancient literature, and one of the most consistently overlooked. He appears in Numbers 21. He appears in Deuteronomy 3. He is referenced in Psalms 135 and 136 as a figure of such significance that his defeat is celebrated in Israel's liturgical worship for generations. Deuteronomy 3:11 gives us a physical detail that stops the careful reader completely. It states that Og's iron bed, his bedstead, was 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. 9 cubits. At the standard ancient Near Eastern cubit of approximately 18 inches, that is 13.5 feet long. But it is not the measurement that the ancient texts find most significant about Og. It is his survival. The Book of Jasher, corroborated by ancient rabbinical midrashic tradition, identifies Og of Bashan as a pre-flood giant, a being who survived the deluge not inside the ark, but by clinging to the outside of it. Riding the flood on the exterior of the vessel that carried the one righteous family, sustained, according to the tradition, by food passed to him through a window by Noah himself. Whether that specific detail is literal or carries the weight of theological allegory, the underlying claim is consistent across multiple independent ancient sources. Og carried pre-flood giant lineage into the post-flood world. He was a living bridge between two ages. And here, precisely here, modern archaeology enters the conversation in a way that demands attention. The region of ancient Bashan, corresponding roughly to the modern Golan Heights in northern Israel and southwestern Syria, contains one of the highest concentrations of ancient megalithic structures in the entire Middle East. Thousands of dolmens, massive stone burial structures, some weighing tens of tons, dot the landscape of Bashan. Structures that the local ancient populations attributed in their oral traditions to a race of giants who inhabited the land before the current peoples arrived. The Arabic name for these structures translates roughly as the beds of the ancient ones. The beds of the ancient ones, in the precise territory where Deuteronomy places the bed of Og. The scrolls are not mythology. They are geography. Numbers chapter 13. Moses has led the children of Israel to the threshold of the promised land. 40 years of wandering have not yet begun. That judgment comes later. Right now, the people are at the border. The land is visible. The promise is within reach. And Moses sends 12 men, one representative from each tribe, to go in and survey the land, to bring back a report. 10 of those 12 men come back and say something that has echoed through the corridors of human psychology for 3,000 years. They say, "We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak who come from the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them." I want you to sit with that image for a moment. Not the giants, not the military report, not the strategic assessment of the land's defenses, the internal experience of those 10 men. We seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers. They did not merely feel physically small, they felt cosmically insignificant. They felt that the very category of their existence, human, mortal, finite, was inadequate in the presence of what they encountered. The sight of the Nephilim descendants did not just frighten them, it convinced them at the deepest level of their identity that they were less than. And I want to ask you something. How many times in your own life has the sight of something vast, something ancient, something that seems to carry a power or a lineage or a momentum that predates you, how many times has that sight produced in you the same whisper? You are a grasshopper here. This is not your territory. Turn back. Because the Nephilim in the land of Canaan were not merely a military obstacle, they were a psychological weapon. Their presence in the land was strategically positioned, whether by design or by the deep logic of spiritual warfare, to produce exactly that response in the people who were called to displace them. 10 out of 12 trained military surveyors looked at what was in the land and chose retreat. Only 2 said, "We are well able." Caleb, Joshua. The difference between the 10 and the 2 was not physical courage in the conventional sense. It was a difference in what they understood themselves to be standing in. The 10 measured themselves against the giants. The 2 measured the giants against the promise, and the promise was larger. I want to tell you something about the Anakim, the specific clan of Nephilim descendants that the 12 spies encountered. Their name in Hebrew carries a meaning that the English translations almost never render fully. Anakim, from the root Anak, meaning long-necked ones. But in the deeper semantic range of the ancient Hebrew, the word carries the connotation of something that encircles, something that wraps around, that encompasses. The ancient world understood the Anakim not merely as tall people. They understood them as beings whose presence encircled and enclosed the spiritual atmosphere of a territory. Giants who did not merely occupy land physically, but dominated it spiritually, whose lineage carried enough of the original Watcher corruption to make the ground they stood on feel like occupied territory in a cosmic sense. And Caleb, specifically Caleb of the tribe of Judah, was given Hebron as his inheritance, the mountain stronghold of the Anakim, the place where their greatest concentration of power resided. He drove them out. An old man by the time Joshua's campaign was complete. He stood before Joshua and said, and these are his actual words in Joshua 14, "I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. Give me this mountain." Give me this mountain, the mountain where the giants lived, the mountain that had made 10 trained soldiers feel like grasshoppers. An old man said, "Give it to me." That is what happens when a human being carrying the intact, uncorrupted image of the Eternal understands their actual standing in the cosmic order. The Nephilim are large, but the promise is larger. Now, we go to the place almost no one goes. I promised you at the beginning of this scroll that we would unseal a detail from the Dead Sea Scrolls, specifically from the Book of Giants found at Qumran, that reframes the entire post-flood Nephilim narrative. Here it is. The Book of Giants does not merely record the existence of the Nephilim, it records their inner experience. This is the detail that makes the Book of Giants unlike any other ancient text dealing with this material. The author, working from traditions that Enoch himself is credited with preserving, goes inside the consciousness of the Nephilim in the period immediately before the flood judgment fell. And what he finds there is not what you would expect. The giants had dreams. Specifically, two of the most prominent Nephilim named in the Book of Giants, Ohya and Hahya, the sons of Semyaza himself, the sons of the leader of the 200, began having terrifying visions in the period before the flood judgment fell. The text describes Ohya's dream with extraordinary vividness. He sees a garden. He sees watchers, divine beings descending with swords and axes, cutting down every tree in the garden until only one tree remains. And a voice declares over the remaining tree that it will be preserved, but that everything else will be destroyed. Ohya wakes from this dream in terror. He goes to his brother Hahya, and Hahya has had his own dream. A dream in which a tablet descends from heaven, and on that tablet, all the names of the Nephilim are being erased, one by one, until the tablet is blank. The Nephilim, the most physically dominant beings on the surface of the ancient earth, beings of consuming power and terrifying stature, were receiving prophetic warnings about their own annihilation. And what did they do with those warnings? They went to Enoch. The Book of Giants records that the Nephilim, troubled by their visions and unable to interpret them, sought out the one human being on earth who walked closely enough with the Eternal to serve as an interpreter of divine communication. They sent a delegation to Enoch. Think about what that means. The offspring of the fallen watchers, beings born of the very transgression that Enoch had witnessed and recorded in sorrow, came to the righteous man, the walker with God, asking him to intercede, asking him to read the writing on the heavenly tablet and tell them what it meant. And Enoch interpreted their dreams. The garden dream meant judgment was coming, total, complete, and unavoidable. The erased tablet meant their names, their lines, their entire category of existence had been removed from the ledger of the living. There was no appeal. There was no alternate reading. The flood was already written. But here, in this moment, is the detail that I need you to hold very carefully. The Book of Giants records that after Enoch delivered this interpretation, after the sentence was confirmed and the Nephilim understood that destruction was coming, some of them did not simply wait to be destroyed. They dispersed. The text is fragmentary here, which is itself significant, because it suggests this was precisely the section most carefully preserved and most carefully handled. But the reconstruction by Stuckenbrook and other scholars suggests that a portion of the Nephilim lineage, upon receiving Enoch's interpretation, began a deliberate migration, moving away from the epicenter of the coming judgment, spreading outward into territories beyond the immediate reach of the divine response that was gathering. They were not fleeing randomly. The text suggests they moved with the same intentionality their fathers had shown on the summit of Mount Hermon, a collective, deliberate repositioning, carrying their bloodline, their knowledge, their spiritual inheritance into the far corners of the ancient world, into Canaan, into Bashan, into the territories east of the Jordan, into the coastal regions that would later be known as Philistia, into the precise locations where, centuries later, generations later, the scriptures record their descendants still standing, still occupying, still waiting. And now, the detail within the detail, the innermost fold of this unsealed scroll. The giant clans of Canaan that Joshua's army encountered were not a uniform population. The scriptures themselves, in Deuteronomy 2 and 3, in Joshua 12 and 15, in 2 Samuel 21, give us their specific tribal names with a precision that reads like a military intelligence report. The Anakim in the hill country of Hebron and Judah, the Rephaim in Bashan and the Transjordan, the Emim in the plains of Moab, the Zamzamim in the territory of Ammon, the Horim in the caves of Seir, the Avim in the coastal territories near Gaza. 6 named clans, 6 distinct tribal identities, spread across a geographical range that covers virtually the entire territory of the ancient Promised Land and its surrounding regions. This is not a random distribution of unusually large people. This is a network, a deliberately positioned network of lineages carrying the ancient inheritance, occupying the specific land that had been promised to the descendants of Abraham, surrounding it, fortifying it, making it appear unconquerable to any force that approached it without understanding what it was actually facing. The land of Canaan was not merely a geopolitical prize, it was a contested cosmic territory, the specific ground that the Creator had designated for the people who carried His name, occupied by the specific lineages that carried the inheritance of the beings who had most fundamentally opposed His design. The entire conquest narrative, Joshua's campaigns, the wars of Israel, was not primarily a military story. It was the final phase of a war that began on Mount Hermon. We began this scroll with a question. If the flood was sent to cleanse the earth of the Nephilim, how did they survive? The answer, unsealed from the Book of Giants, from the Book of Jasher, from the canonical scriptures of Numbers and Deuteronomy and Joshua, is both more complex and theologically significant than a simple answer about biology or lineage. The Nephilim did not survive by accident. They did not survive through oversight. They survived because their role in the long arc of the cosmic conflict required them to be present at the next stage, to occupy the ground, to stand in the way, to produce in the hearts of those approaching their inheritance exactly the response they produced in 10 of the 12 spies. You are a grasshopper here. Turn back. And here is what I want to say to you, directly, clearly, without allegory. The same dynamic is operational in your life right now. Whatever territory you have been called to occupy, whatever promise has been written over your life, your family, your purpose in this precise moment of history, there is something standing in it. Something that has been there longer than you have been alive. Something that carries an ancient weight, an ancient momentum that is specifically designed to make you feel the grasshopper response. This is too large. This has been here too long. The people who live here are stronger than I am. Turn back. The 10 spies were not cowards. They were accurate observers. Everything they reported was factually true. The cities were fortified, the people were large, the military odds were genuinely unfavorable. They were right about everything, except the one thing that mattered most. They forgot, in the presence of the giants, what they were actually carrying. They forgot whose promise had brought them to that border. They forgot that the same Eternal who had parted the Red Sea, who had rained bread from heaven in the wilderness, who had spoken from the mountain in fire, that same Eternal had said, "I have given you this land." Not, "I will help you to try to take this land." Not, "I believe you have a reasonable chance." I have given. Past tense, already accomplished in the eternal dimension before the first soldier crossed the Jordan. Caleb was 85 years old when he stood before Joshua and asked for the mountain of the Anakim. 85. His body was old. His sword arm had been swinging for decades. He had spent 40 years in a wilderness waiting for a generation of grasshopper thinkers to pass away so that the next generation, the ones who had grown up knowing nothing but the faithfulness of the Eternal in the desert, could be raised up to finish the work. And this old man, this warrior who had been waiting for 40 years to claim what was promised, did not ask for the easy territory, did not ask for the valley, did not ask for the well-watered plains where the ordinary towns sat. He asked for the mountain where the giants lived. Because Caleb understood something that the Book of Giants, Unsealed from Qumran, confirms at the deepest level of the ancient record. The giants were not immortal. They were large. They were ancient. They carried an inheritance that predated the flood. Their lineage connected back to the very watchers who had stood in the presence of the Eternal before descending. But they were not immortal, and they were not invincible, and they were not, in the cosmic accounting, the ones to whom the land ultimately belonged. Hebron had been promised to Abraham before a single Anakim set foot in it. The deed was written before the giants arrived, and Caleb knew whose name was on the deed. The Book of Giants ends in fragments. The final reconstructed sections show the Nephilim receiving the full weight of Enoch's interpretation. The judgment is confirmed. The names on the heavenly tablet are erased, and the text moves in its closing passages towards something that the fragmentary state of the manuscript has preserved only partially, but enough. It moves toward accountability. Every giant clan, every post-flood lineage, every occupying force that had positioned itself on promised land, each one is accounted for in the record. Each one falls in the fullness of time to the very people they were meant to discourage. The Anakim fall to Caleb. Og of Bashan falls to Moses himself. The Rephaim are driven from Bashan. The Philistine giants, including one named Goliath of Gath, whose own lineage the text of 2 Samuel 21 connects explicitly to the remaining Rephaim, fall to a shepherd boy who had never lost the knowledge of whose name he carried. David did not defeat Goliath because he had better aim. He defeated Goliath because he had never learned to feel like a grasshopper. He had spent years alone on the hillsides of Bethlehem, watching over his father's sheep, talking to the Eternal in the open sky. And in that solitude, in that ordinary faithfulness, something had been formed in him that no giant could intimidate. The unshakable knowledge of whose he was. That knowledge is available to you. It has always been available. It does not require a theological degree. It does not require a perfect past. It does not require that you have never had a grasshopper moment, that you have never stood at the border of your promise and felt the weight of what was occupying it pressing down on your chest. It requires only what Caleb had, the memory kept alive through every wilderness season, through every year of waiting, through every moment when the giant seemed permanently immovable, the memory of what was promised, and the willingness when the moment finally comes to look at the mountain where the giants live and say, "Give me this mountain." The Nephilim survived the flood, but they did not outlast the promise. They never do. The scroll is sealed until the next unsealing. Walk carefully. Walk with knowledge. Walk whole.